FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's 5/21/19. That's right. May is just about over. I hope you sold in May and went away, but if you're like most people, you probably didn't. But you were advised here by none other than myself and Nick Santiago to act accordingly. And you could have made a lot of money doing it, but anyway, not important. We do what we do. But what is important is we all have one thing in common, and that is we're all getting older. I know that's hard to believe. Hey, I'm 62. I still feel like I'm 40, but need a little more sleep and a little less partying, all of that. But because you're getting older, and the odds are that if you're over 40 now, you're probably going to make it to your 60s and probably to your 70s or 80s. It's actuarially likely and probable. So what do you do about Medicare, healthcare, etc.? Well, this show is really for people who are approaching Medicare age, but really it applies to everyone because you can take steps right now to pay for the burden of your future health care. Well, there's a site that you really have to go to. It's called boomerbenefits.com. And person you're about to hear from runs that site, Danielle K. Roberts. Danielle, welcome to the show. So we're looking at everybody's getting older here. And even if you're not going to live to 100, you probably got a plan that you're going to live to at least 80 or 90. And healthcare is going to really play a big part in that. So you've got solutions, don't you?
Yes, we certainly do. I'm thrilled to be here to share some of them with you.
So one thing you mentioned, high deductible health insurance policy. So for those of you not aware, and you're going to go into this, Danielle, even when you qualify for Medicare, which age is currently 65, you are still going to have to pay part of that burden. And how does that work exactly, Danielle?
Sure. And so a lot of people really get this confused because throughout our working lives, we pay FICA taxes and we see those coming out of our paychecks. And we know that part of that goes toward Medicare. So a lot of folks think when you turn 65, Medicare will be free. And unfortunately, it isn't. So the taxes that you pay will go toward your Part A hospital benefits. When you turn 65, you won't have to pay anything for those as long as you or a spouse have worked at least 10 years here in the US and paid those taxes along the way. But you pay for Medicare Parts B and D. So your outpatient coverage with Medicare is a monthly premium. Currently, the standard base premium for that is $135.50 a month, but you'll pay more than that if you happen to be in a high income bracket. And then, of course, the drug coverage is voluntary with Medicare, but if you don't have any other coverage, it's really necessary that you have it. And those premiums can range anywhere from as low as $15 a month to well over $100 a month, depending on the plan that you choose and what kind of drugs it has on its formulary. So all of those things are something that we need to be saving up for during our working years and not be surprised at when we turn 65. We don't want to find out that we haven't put enough away to make sure that we have good healthcare coverage during retirement.
So something you mentioned to me about a high deductible health insurance policy, basically. So tell us about that. How does that work?
So a lot of you that are listening probably have access to employer insurance. And many companies these days will offer their employees a couple of different plans to choose from. And it's very common for them to offer at least one high deductible health plan that is compatible to open a health savings account. So if you have a high deductible health plan that's qualified for an HSA, this allows you to open a health savings account. Your employer may have one that they recommend to you, but you can also open these up at your local bank that you do business with. And they're great retirement savings vehicles because the money that you put into them is tax deductible now. So in 2019, an individual can put away $3,500 and a couple could put away $7,000. per year into this account, and it's a top of the line write off on your taxes that year. So you never pay any tax on the money going in. And of course, it's sitting in the savings account and compounding and growing interest with time. Once you've built up a sizable nest egg in there, you could even invest some of those funds if you wanted to. And that money just accumulates and you use it for medical expenses. So you can use it for paying doctor copays and you can use it for paying um, co-insurance. So if you've got an 80/20 health plan and the insurance company covers 80%, you cover the other 20%, which is
Hmm.
the same way that Medicare Part B works. You can use the money in that account for those things and there's no penalty for using it for those medical expenses. You can use it for dental and vision and hearing expenses. And then also that money, when you turn 65 someday, it's yours. So the money is in there, it's accumulating and growing over time. And if you've got a nest egg of money built up in that when you finally age into Medicare, you can even use that money to pay for your Medicare premiums. So it's a great way to sort of have a separate little nest egg, a rainy day retirement fund for the cost of healthcare and retirement and all of the things that you'll be paying during those hopefully 10, 15, 20, 30 years that you're retired.
So what's also nice about it is that you don't have to take mandatory distributions, correct?
That's correct. That's right.
Yeah.
And so that money is yours and you could decide what you want to do with it. And as I mentioned when we were speaking before the podcast recording, one of the things I really love about it is, let's say you're a super savvy saver and you've put away 50 grand in there and you turn 65 and you're super healthy and you realize that this money is going to go a long way. You can even pull that money out for non-medical expenses once you're 65, and there's no penalty then either. You would just pay the ordinary income tax. So
Yeah.
it has some advantages over even just your ordinary IRA type of savings in
Hmm.
that you'll be able to use it for your Medicare things in the future. You can use it toward things that Medicare doesn't cover, like dental, vision, hearing, long-term care. But if you had a lot of money put away in there and you just didn't think you were going to burn through it all for medical expenses, you could even just use it for ordinary things and you just pay the ordinary tax, no penalty.
So, so is there a limit to how much money you can put in there besides the tax deductibility? Well, how much can you deduct on your taxes? And so what's that
Yeah.
tax limit? And then what's the limit that you can actually put in that fund?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Egypt is on the verge, once again, becoming a world-renowned gold producer. The golden age is being rediscovered. For millennia, ancient Egyptian kingdoms prospered from unparalleled riches. Pharaohs built their empires and flaunted their abundant wealth that was made possible by the country's resource-rich gold deposits. Despite this rich history, modern Egypt remains one of the most underdeveloped gold mining countries in the world. Aton Resources is at the center of the modern Egyptian mining world, diligently working both as the only public exploration company in Egypt today and as the advocate for mining reform with the Egyptian government. However, those that arrive early like Aton will reap the best rewards. Aton's discovery of the legendary Lost Mountain of Gold at Rodruin and its current aggressive drilling program there could potentially reap those rewards. Aton Resources is focused on its 100% owned Abu Marawat concession in the Arabian-Nubian Shield, located 200 kilometers north of Centamin Sakari's world-class gold mine. Aton possesses first-mover advantage in the underfollowed jurisdiction of Egypt, which is currently undergoing mining reform. To stay on top of Aton's latest drill results and news, go to atonresources.com. Aton trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the ticker AAN and on the OTC under the ticker ANLBF.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
So there's no maximum limit that you can save up in it. You'll just go by the yearly announcement from the IRS, and it usually goes up just a little bit every year. So this year, your contribution as the individual is the $3,500 and $7,000 as a married couple. But when you turn 55, you also can put in an extra $1,000 a year as a catch-up contribution, so that even the government realizes that at age 55, people need to be thinking about these healthcare expenses that are coming their way in retirement. So they let you save an extra $1,000 a year per person toward that eventual goal of having that nest egg of money that you can use for your healthcare expenses in retirement.
That's pretty cool. So, is there any retirement funds that you're allowed to roll over into this? Can you do that at all? Like, if you saving some type of retirement fund, are you allowed to put it in there?
I don't think so, although I'm not entirely certain on that. I know that you just have the maximum per year that you can contribute, but I'm not aware if you can do a rollover.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, if any of you out there want to know, we will get the answer and we will forward it off to you. So, uh, other things. So, but you have to get a health insurance policy, a high deductible health insurance policy, correct?
hmm That's right. And the thing to know about those is every year when you have a high deductible policy, there's always a chance that you could have a health event and you're going to end up meeting that deductible. So let's say you had a $3,000 deductible on your work insurance. One of the things I recommend is you want to try to build up at least that much money in your HSA account
Hmm.
because something to consider is you'll be using it now as well. So, for instance, when you have a high deductible health plan and you go to the doctor, you're going to have a bill for that appointment and you can use the money in your HSA funds to pay for that as you go. The idea is that hopefully you're spending less now in younger, healthier years than you're putting away so that you have a nest egg kind of building. But you want to at least save up enough money into it and contribute enough so that if tomorrow you had an emergency and you had to come out of pocket that whole 3,000, you could use your HSA funds, which in effect are giving you a considerable discount because
Yeah.
you're paying that with tax-free money.
Because otherwise, if you just wrote a check out of your account, there's no tax deduction unless you hit the threshold for
Yes,
deductions. And now, under the new tax law, that might not even be valuable for you. So,
that's
here
right.
instead, you're using pre tax money. So, this makes complete sense. But these health savings accounts with high deductible plans, aren't they difficult to come by? Uh, didn't Obamacare do something to them that really kind of denigrated or downgraded uh, the value of them or the ability to obtain them?
Well, most urban areas, at least on the healthcare exchange, there will be some options for high deductible health plans. A lot of what I usually hear from people who are under 65 is that those are the only ones that they can afford. So I know that with some of your richer health plans with lower
Hmm.
deductibles, sometimes in the healthcare exchange, if you're someone that's not qualifying for a subsidy to help you pay for that, they can be really expensive. But you will find in most markets, you'll have HSA compatible health plans. Some of them may have very high deductibles, though. And so some of the press was about that there are plans out there with a $6,500 deductible. And the higher the deductible on the plan, the lower your premium for that insurance is going to be. But then
Hmm.
again, if you have a $6,500 deductible, you're going to want to make sure that you work towards saving at least that much money into your HSA account because having an accident or an injury that causes you to hit a deductible that high can be quite painful. And it's a little less painful if you're paying for it with the tax-free money.
Right. Yeah. Well, it makes complete logical sense. But my
Mhm.
understanding was they're really difficult to come by and costly um, in the long run. But I guess so. Is there a place you can find out where these plans are and where they exist? You have
Yeah, you
any ideas about that?
Yeah, when we look them up for people, because a lot of times our clients here, we will have someone turning 65 who has a younger spouse. And
Hmm.
so we just go to healthcare.gov. And when you get to that website, you enter your income information, your zip code, and it will
Hmm.
pull up a list of all the plans in your area. And you'll be able to see the ones that are high deductible qualified. I know that here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, we have several of them available from Blue Cross. In other areas, there may be different carriers that offer these. And and if
Hmm.
you have access to employer coverage, again, you can also check with your employer or your spouse's employer to find out if they offer an HSA compatible option in their health benefits.
I see. Well, very interesting there. And I think it's a great tax shelter. You're probably, like most people, you're probably going to spend that money. But if you don't, so what if you die and you got $100,000 in your HSA? Where does it go?
So you'll be able to name a beneficiary on your account when you set it up, and that money will go to your beneficiary.
Uh huh. Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
So,
so just like any ordinary savings account, you could do that, and that way you don't have to worry about if you don't use the money.
mhm. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, this is a really fascinating thing. So, you're the expert in this. How do we find you if we want to talk to you about it?
Sure, we're pretty easy to find anywhere online. We're website is boomerbenefits.com, where you can read lots of information about Medicare and aging into Medicare and what Medicare costs and some of the other related costs of healthcare and retirement. And just about on any social media, Facebook, YouTube, you can also find us at Boomer Benefits.
Boomerbenefits.com. Place, if you're getting up in years like me, don't wait till you're 65. So one thing I wanted to ask you about Medicare. So right now, the way it is, it's 65, right? And 65, you qualify. And it's going to cover mostly everything. There's no reason not to ever apply for Medicare once you hit 65, right?
That's right. Now, the only reason that sometimes people will delay enrollment into Medicare is if they're working for a large employer, 20 or more employees, that coverage that they have through that employer at work, if they have health coverage there, is primary. So in that case, a lot of people will just enroll in Medicare Part A, since Part A doesn't cost anything for most people because that's the part you've paid for with all those taxes, your working years. And they'll delay their enrollment into Parts B and D until they retire, because those parts have premiums and their employer coverage likely already has outpatient and drug coverage built in. So that would be the only reason you would really delay enrollment into Medicare. And then just as soon as you leave that coverage, you would immediately enroll into Medicare to be your primary coverage.
I see. I see. So any names of companies that offer this type of coverage?
Yeah, so you'll get your original Medicare benefits from the government itself. So you sign up for those at the Social Security office. But then you can either add on what's called a Medicare supplement to cover the deductibles and the co-insurance and some of the things that Medicare doesn't cover. And you can buy those from very well-known big carriers like Humana, Aetna, Blue Cross, Anthem, United Healthcare. Some people choose to get their Medicare Part A and B benefits through a private insurance company and a network-based plan.
Right.
These are called Medicare Advantage plans, and all of those same carriers offer those in most markets as well.
Okay. Really, really interesting. So there's a strategy for everything. Strategy for getting old. Well, you can't help but get old. The alternative isn't really very desirable for most of you out there, but I wouldn't say everyone. And therefore, if you're going to get old, you might as well do it with the most possible grace and dignity. You need to be thinking about these things. Really, really important out there, guys. Can't emphasize it enough. And all you have to do is a little bit of planning. If you're 55 and you put away $4,500 a year, I mean, forget it. You can really save some major money in taxes. The government's going to finance, depending on your tax bracket, anywhere from 25 to 55% of this in terms of tax savings. And, I wouldn't be I wouldn't be betting this fund on exotic derivatives or currency, credit default swaps, or buying VIX futures in the stock exchange, but a little prudent investing with it isn't so bad. And, well, I really appreciate you coming on, Danielle. Any questions, comments for Danielle, myself? Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com, Twitter feed @KerryLutz, Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. And best of all, if you're already listening to this on a podcast platform or YouTube, then please subscribe, like, and share. Sometimes when you're doing it on iTunes, you got to click subscribe about 10 times to get it to where you need to go. Just keep clicking and clicking till you're subscribed. It really helps me a lot when you do that, and it really helps get great ideas out there like Danielle's that you're probably not going to hear about in your everyday existence. Don't hesitate to connect with Danielle. She's more than happy to help, and if she can work with you, that's great. But just connect with Danielle, boomerbenefits.com. Danielle, been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. I enjoyed it. Thanks.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.